Survival games are just one of the most awesome special genres in gaming. Yeah, we have our big AAA blockbusters with lots of hype, but there have always been the survival games ticking away in the background through the years. Whether you have hunger, thirst, monsters, or managing some kind of survival element. Hi folks, it's Mac, and today on this video, we've got the 20 best survival games you can play right now. All right, kicking off this list at number 20, we have DayZ. This is an absolute classic at this point, and one of the original battle royales if you want to go as far back as the mod that was for Arma 2. Nowadays, this thing's just a proper standalone game with so much more than just zombie survival and running from other players. In this game, the experience is you're dropped off. You got nothing. You gotta explore, kind of move inland, find maybe a bucket or something, use it as a helmet. Maybe you find an old rusty baseball bat or a rusty gun that may or may not work. Maybe you go into a city with some other people and you try and fend off other survivors. Or maybe you meet someone who wants to pair up with you and work together. This is a deadly survival world where there are all these random zombie NPCs, but it's really more about the other online players, man. You never know if they're gonna shoot you on sight. You never know if they're gonna try and just barter and trade or hang out with you. It's that random element combined with a pretty killer, large open world that still kept DayZ going. It has a very, very loyal player base that's still fairly big after all these years with the fan websites, with maps, with info, with backstories about certain towns. DayZ is a total classic, but you're probably going to be popping painkillers a lot because stuff again is rusty and you got to manage your temperature and your health pretty often, among other things. Of course, a lot of the survival games we're talking about today have some survival elements, but we really picked the ones that are focused on that, but also just have something special, a little extra something to them. And of course, DayZ had to be on this list. Next at number 19, this is another perfect recent example that shows that survival games are still going strong alongside the movies and TV shows and music that are talking about AI and deep fakes and all these types of conversations. The Alters is doing something similar. You're not on Earth, you're some random schlub who's on an alien planet on a dope wheel thing, and you gotta survive. It's a survival game. Of course you're managing foods and resources. You got your weird wheel that is apparently the way you're gonna be getting around and making do with what you got, but you also have the ability to clone yourself and essentially create alternatives, create other yous to help get stuff done and to talk to and learn about, and it gets pretty crazy. It's one of the more inventive games we've seen in a while where it balances really fun survival mechanics, but really mixes it up with that stuff, but also just a lot of weird philosophical sci-fi trippiness. You can get your head wrapped around whether you want to or not, depending on how much you want to just kind of chill out and shoot the breeze with your potential brothers. Or not necessarily brothers, other versions of you. It's a very interesting look at the psyche and anxiety of a person while also being a very stressful survival game, but it's also just kind of fun. I mean, look at this thing, man. I could watch this thing go around all day. The Alters is worth checking out. It might hit you in ways you're not expecting. Next, over at number 18, whether you've played RuneScape before or not, this is just a cozy survival game. RuneScape Dragonwilds is everything a lot of people could have wanted. It's a cartoony, stylized survival game where you got your base building stuff. You got your hunting, your crafting, your spells, your world exploration, but because of how streamlined this feels, it's a little bit more enjoyable. Yes, there's still the grindy going back and forth and grabbing stuff and bringing it here and putting it here, unfortunately. That's just a staple of survival games at this point, unless you want to go for more full realism, but RuneScape Dragonwilds makes it a little bit less of a chore, especially if you're playing in multiplayer. This is a pretty fun world to explore and adventure through. There's dungeons to figure out together, there's bosses to fight, and once you're done with all the quests, I guess, you could just go around and hunt for fancy armor. I mean, you got all the usual lame normal armor, and then if you want any style, sorry, you're gonna have to find it. And there's a lot of completely unique and public quests that are hidden throughout the world to give you sweet armor. The boss fights look fun, the world looks beautiful, and it kind of softens some of the grindy, mundane stuff from survival games. That's why we wanted to point this one out. RuneScape Dragonwilds, like I said, newcomer friendly. Even if you've never touched RuneScape before, this is a good one.
Cappy,
What now?
how about launching the car into Cappy's core?
Next at number 17, we're happy to inform you, if you don't know already, Pacific Drive is a survival game. Yeah, it has all the classic details. Yes, it's set up as a roguelike, where you go out on runs and try and get resources and avoid all the anomalies in this crazy world of the Olympic exclusion zone and use that shit to bring home to hopefully build new things and get new things and enhance things. But you also have to manage quite a bit of survival factors. Yeah, you got your radioactive zones. You got your hostile AI all around here, but also it comes down to, I don't know, tires and gas. You're only gonna have so many spare tires to bring with you on a run. You gotta pick up gas on the way, and car batteries don't last as long as everybody thinks they do. Yeah, you can always beat up other cars to grab whatever you need off of them, but they're also spread far and wide, so hopefully you have what you need to get to them and grab what you want. Look, at the end of the day, it's a very interesting premise. It's a cool game. It's just you alone building out your car to be this expedition thing, mixing like a modern realistic world with kind of like a weird unsettling alien one, and combining that with essentially a humanitarian aid convoy that crashes and created this car. Anyway, Pacific Drive is a very unique game with a very unique approach to survival, and that is why this is a highly recommended game that you should check out. Now at number 16, if you want an alternate history Britain survival game on Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, well, Atomfall is here for you. The world's a bit of an alternative history after a nuclear reactor meltdown, and now it also just so happens to have crazy cults all over the place. Despite that, it's mostly a serene environment. We're not talking Walking Dead here, but you're going out and scavenging as usual. You got missions to finish which change while you're working on them, and typically in a survival game, you wouldn't want to be too mean to people, especially in the post-apocalypse where those friends and contacts can help you out a lot. But Atomfall gives you a bit of a different objective sometimes, where you gotta decide whether you're gonna help them or hurt them. Add in a fair bit of exploring to do, a lot of figuring out which areas are the best paths of least resistance to get across the map, and a big part of survival, which is carrying enough of the right things to make weapons, ammo, and health, or all to keep you alive in a punch. Now, ultimately, this is a survival game about making a lot of important choices while walking around this beautiful countryside. If you want to take in the sights while sneaking up and hearing everyone's secrets, hearing them all talk in those accents that I enjoy listening to, I don't know, Atomfall sounds like a good place to be. Next at number 15, if you're a horror game fan, you might be familiar with the original game made of Sker. Since then, Wales Interactive put out Sker Ritual, a multiplayer co-op, first-person survival shooter spin-off that is aimed at Call of Duty Zombies mode, essentially. Now in Sker Ritual, you got 4 maps for players to make your way through. Each one's almost a mini campaign. You can play alone, you can play up to 3 other players online, but you're gonna start with a pistol. And as you take out the waves of enemies thrown at you, you can buy all sorts of new weapons, upgrade stuff, buy upgrades, durability, you name it. Now there's also perks you can get, stuff you can select as you make your way through this game. So the waves of enemies keep getting more and more, but your goal in this game isn't just to see how many waves of enemies you can survive. Instead, each one also has story missions to complete, adding more challenge. In between battling waves of enemies, you gotta find a way to open doors and get things. It really is about the balancing act, like slowly making your way through, getting enough good loot, getting good enough stuff, but not making too much noise or not getting too much attention. That'll make the game harder. It's a fun balancing act, and I think the game does a good job mixing up the formula a bit. I like how this game looks. I like the different visual type of things rather than just zombies all the time. It's not perfect, there are technical issues, your enemies can be tough to balance when you're dealing with multiplayer, but there are reasons to keep going, secret objectives to complete. Sker Ritual on paper may not sound the most special, but it's a fun little one, and it's a good time, especially if you're looking to survive with your friends. Now at number 14, at this point you've probably played Frostpunk. It's a very popular survival game in its own right, and as you could probably expect, Frostpunk 2 is a pretty big step up from the first. For you city management nerds out there, this is one to get you super excited about all kinds of new elements to the gameplay. You know, you may be familiar with some of the previous stuff like coal, water, food, steel, managing them carefully, and building research centers, coal mines, and greenhouses, but in preliminary planning before, I don't know, maybe the big super frost comes and hits everyone and it's minus 240 degrees Celsius. That's probably not gonna save your citizens, actually, so you really gotta learn to expect your expectations of what your city should look like. Progress isn't exactly always something that they will thank you for. And the simplicity of the first Frostpunk is of course very much not here. Frostpunk 2 adds more building settlements. It adds more policies to open and expand and a lot more to manage. You know, there's ministries, public health, explore their armories. It's a whole politics system. With all this new advanced stuff, it's gonna take you a while to master it. It's a difficulty that can be challenging whether you're playing Frostpunk 2 in story mode or with the endless mode. You're likely still gonna fail your first few playthroughs as you figure out that the things that you thought you built to survive might actually be death traps when the inevitable comes and you gotta change a lot. Frostpunk 2 might be a lot to learn, but it's definitely worth it. Now over at number 13, State of Decay 2 is a zombie survival game about establishing a base and trying to get the best group of people together as possible so you can survive. It's got a number of modes and several features, allowing you to build unique communities, but what it comes down to at its core is establishing communities or bases. And the game does present you with several of them, each with their own perks and difficulties. Although it's not as open as State of Decay 1, there is a trade-off here. It's more balanced and focused and is built with multiplayer in mind. And by building for multiplayer, being built from the ground up for this, it incorporated a lot of drop-in, drop-out features that work really, really well. If you want to help your friends, you can. If your friends want to help you, they can. One really important addition that State of Decay 2 brings with it is the Plague, an infection that appears alongside the hordes. Zombie blood carries it, and all you need is a little scratch and your survivor can start to become a zombie. You gotta keep an eye out on that blood plague up at the top left corner of the screen. There's also a bunch of violently infected plague zombies. There's plague medicine, of course, and it requires searching for plague materials and plague hearts, which are zombie nests that have to be destroyed. What State of Decay 2 does a little better than the first one is flesh out the houses and neighborhoods. There's just more detail to them. This is also, I may be speaking personally, but again, it depends on the game. I think State of Decay 2 does a better job with this, but it's far less clunky. Earnestness is a good thing to a certain extent when presented alongside a fair degree of polish, and I think State of Decay 2 is really where it's at in terms of this series. I mean, don't get me wrong, both are great. A third one would be a real treat if we get it.
In order to find out how you reduce the radiation, you need to go to the coordinates of the place where the captain's bridge crashed.
Now at number 12, it's been out for a while, but Breathedge is a survival game for people who have started to grow tired of the genre. Makes sense, does its own thing, kind of invokes its own sense of comedy within the backdrop of loneliness and impending doom, but the hazards that surround your astronaut are super daunting even within their simplicity. It makes the most mundane tasks a total challenge. And while, we've grown a little bit tired of some aspects of the survival genre, like I said, Breathedge aims to make it feel a little bit fresh. It's tongue-in-cheek, and it's not as long-winded as some other survival games. There's of course an oxygen bar, there's a crafting system, but the game is a little bit more straightforward with what you're doing. Think of it as, Subnautica if it was just debris and bodies floating in space, rather than under the water. Now, it's sci-fi, but it still clearly has that classic old school space flavor that a lot of people love. I mean, you literally can obtain spaghetti and soup and other things like that. So if you're looking for a chill survival space game where the story keeps you interested enough without feeling like it's totally dragging or still has the things you expect from a survival game, harvesting, crafting, then Breathedge is certainly one to try out at some point, especially if you have a backlog. If you have that whole survival games list, this one should definitely be on it. Now at number 11, you might have heard us talk about Forever Skies before. It's a game that really stood out to us, and we're happy it's still going strong. And it's good to talk because this is essentially Subnautica, but you're not under the water, you're above it all in this type of air/cloud, sea-like situation in a sci-fi world. And rather than just a little hut you somehow get access to, you have a full-on airship that can be built out and expanded with additive parts. You can grow your food in it, you can modularly separate it, you can have storage areas, you can do basically whatever you want to do with it. It's great, and this one already left from its early access, which totally makes sense because this is one of the better Subnautica clones because it actually has its own idea, and it is a slightly different game besides that. In this game, you've got to survive by using an extractor tool. It's an upgradable tool that helps you gather resources, and there's everything from that, like collecting rainwater to producing food and taking care of your health. If you want to land on the planet, you must be cautious as the toxic atmosphere is full of mutated creatures and poison, making it a very hostile place. If you like this type of game, like if you really enjoy the type of experience that Subnautica provides, then this is a no-brainer. Coming in next at number 10, we have Smalland Survive the Wilds. Yes, it has a similar premise to games like Grounded. You are very small, you're in the ground, you're very vulnerable, but this still is very much worth recommending. This one, you have a little bit more customization to your hero. You are a small folk exploring a vast world to survive, craft, and complete quests to find a cure for your queen. It could be played in multiplayer, and what a lot of people say about Smalland is that it's just solid, that we're at the point with so many survival games that Smalland seems to just hit all the beats right. Some people say it maybe tries to be a little too different with actually having a crafted story, having characters, having an objective, but I think the real appeal for a lot of people is that they're saying that these environmental tools and stuff, all the obstacles are more fun to navigate here. That said, it's also worth mentioning the fun combat mechanics of the game, along with the world that is charming as hell. It can be punishing, but there is a big open world, and there's just lots to see and do. And from people who love survival games, like the real hardcore fans, like the ones who I've tricked into sitting through my survival game videos, despite the fact that it is sort of like a roadmap for casual fans, but these people are saying it's just quality over quantity, and it's worth jumping into if you love this type of stuff. Coming in next at number 9, don't let the somewhat generic name or the kind of clunky look fool you, because Stranded: Alien Dawn is one of the bigger survival games out there for very good reason. It allows you to select survivors with diverse skills, shaping them into roles like soldiers, farmers, or scavengers, often with the goal of achieving rescue or other objectives depending on the scenario. It's a randomized globe for you and your 4 survivor, at least initially, to build a stronghold on. And it offers a pretty dynamic game and an experience that kind of switches depending on the new world you're catching the game out on. Now, learning all the new ways to handle challenges presented by the world takes a bit. It's not the easiest game. I mean, if you're on the wrong end of what an alien planet has to offer, you're probably gonna die. But once you get the rhythm of it, Stranded: Alien Dawn can be a long-term game for sure. Just look at the different options and experiences that it offers. Just keep in mind that it's almost like the ultimate base builder here. You start with a group of survivors and they must scavenge for resources, build a shelter, start farming food, and research the weird life on the planet, which it's an alien planet, so everything is weird. But it's an interesting game that does a little bit more of a special version of the type of map-based base building that it's doing. It's a good game. Now at number 8, we have Sons of the Forest, a game I said I want to stop talking about, or games like it, but it is inevitable. It's a survival game, it's an open world game, it's really interesting. It's also a horror game. It might play like one on the surface, like an open world game, but it's got a massive secret hidden base that you can explore slowly over time. Now, as you'd probably expect from a sequel like this, a lot of the mechanics like base building and crafting have improved quite a bit over its predecessor, and the world is a whole lot bigger, 4 times the size of the map in the original The Forest. Sons of the Forest brings us into a much deeper and darker cave system, has many more horrors than the last game. New monsters and deformed beasts crawl out from the darkness to eat you alive, and with the right gear, you can go down into the darkness to hunt them right back. Now, there's also improved AI that has made the enemy much more dangerous than they were in the original The Forest. Exploring the world isn't just important for killing enemies, though. It's also important for crafting and all the other stuff. It's got a lot of stuff for you to craft, gather, and of course build a base with. No base is ever going to make you immune to attack, you have to remember that. But honestly, it's another one of those survival games where children of the 90s had your first experiences accidentally going deep sea diving by walking canyon walls or something found in this game and went, okay, this is probably a little deep. You're not going to probably explore too much of the world at first, but trust me, you wanna, because the further you go, the crazier this game gets. And trust me, when you finally go deep into the upworld, it is so much fun. Now at number 7, The Long Dark is another classic, and for another reason, you're not surviving against zombies or mutants or soldiers or anything like that. It's just wolves, blizzards, and of course the biggest enemy, the cold. The Long Dark is a game that can be almost a little bit meditative. It's a survival game where you want to spend some time like taking it slow and watching the forest at times. And at other times, you're going to be racing against blizzards and temperatures dropping and needing to find a way to warm up before frostbite starts to totally take hold. The Long Dark, as the name implies, it's a rather stark, dark experience. It's not upbeat, and it's fairly realistic. It doesn't present all of the choices as realistic, but it presents things that you'd have to deal with for the most part in a realistic way. You get hungry and thirsty, you freeze, it's sometimes hard to see. But you'll have long periods where nothing is going on and you're out walking in the woods. These types of games, like this type of thing, slowly but surely become like the entire experience, the ambiance. It is incredible. But that's not the only thing The Long Dark is. It also has a story mode because it doesn't just have an endless mode like most of these games. Now, there are 2 DLCs that have been released for the game, and one of them has this kind of 4 episodes, which I think is really poetic. That DLC alone is already more than 30 hours of gameplay, and yes, it is challenging and it gives you a real sense of the enemy in the world. The cold, the snow, and the dark, and the wolves who are, they're just doing what you want to do. They want to eat. Anyway, this is a game that I think every survival fan should play. Coming in next at number 6, it's Dismantle, and it's a game I don't want you to overlook. It might not look like that much. It actually looks like a mobile game, which kind of meant that I overlooked it for quite a while. But it's actually a lot of fun. It's a top-down survival game, and it's actually pretty feature-rich. Everything you would expect from the genre is here: crafting, building, hunting, base building, and exploration. But there is this interesting twist to it. The whole theme of the game is that there's an apocalypse, and you're expected to dismantle things in the abandoned world. So it's all about dismantling, but the game is called Dismantle with a Y. Yes, that's how I am now pronouncing the word dismantle. I'm sorry, but I'm not. Anyway, the way you do it is, what's interesting about this game, it's satisfying because it's pretty feature rich. The materials and stuff you can dismantle aren't just things like trees and rocks and whatever, it's almost everything, at least eventually. At the start, you can't really do much of anything, but the more you progress in the game and build out your tool set, you get to rip apart all sorts of stuff. So it's got base mechanics that are pretty much what you would expect, but it's been done in a way that makes it super satisfying. If you like what you see but you're skeptical just looking at the game, don't be. This game is a blast for what it is, and especially because it's a game you can just play and actually finish. Next on the list, we have Grounded 2. This is already out for its early access phase, and it looks like a pretty triumphant sequel. And it seems the original formula is actually pretty much completely intact. The difference with Grounded, it seems like they tapped into something really special with this type of subgenre, created a survival experience that retains a particular sense of accessibility, fun, and wonder that they just didn't want to mess with, and I don't think that's wrong. Some of the things they did in this new one also feels like exactly what the developer wished they could have done with the original Grounded. It's essentially a massive enhancement on it. The park that Grounded 2 is set in is 3 times the size of the first game, and they took feedback on board for the sequel. It's bigger, like I said, it's got more bugs, it smooths out some of the rougher edges of the first one, tank's a little more streamlined, and overall, you're just gonna have more fun playing it than you did with Grounded 1, which is another fantastic game. But Grounded 2 is gonna pretty much be the definitive way to play it. They nailed the formula with that first game. They made it more challenging. There's lots of new giant bugs to run away from while your tiny little characters are surviving. There's improved survival and crafting. It's just another no-brainer, and it's not like they restarted the clock or anything like that. They just made the game better. Seriously, Grounded 2 looks fantastic. Coming in next, at number 4, Starsand is an open-world survival game in an entirely hazardous desert. It makes it clear from the beginning you'll need to rest in the shade occasionally through sandstorms and avoid the worst of the heat. Of course, there's some horrible things that come out at night as well. It's just one of those survival games. It has a little bit of a more specific focus to it. It looks good doing it, but it's not perfect. It lacks some of the exploration elements that a lot of these games have, but it does allow you to walk the whole world. They give you a map, it's kind of ambiguous, but it's there, and of course it's a sand world, so you're gonna eventually uncover the ruins of the world to explore. This is survival game stuff. This is always what we're looking for. And of course, making a base is half the fun. In this game, it's all about building that out. None of these bases are exactly survival friendly though. You're going to have to defend them. Starsand isn't hard, but it's certainly not easy either. It's more than anything a balancing act, which I think is really where a quality survival game is if it's not throwing absolutely everything and its mother at you, including possibly literally a mother moose. Not actually in terms of the moose. But do check out Starsand. It may not be a perfect game, but it's one that adds a fairly interesting tab to the genre and cracks the formula really, really well. Next on the list at number 3, Valheim is inevitable on a list like this. It gives us one of the biggest mechanics we've seen yet, mixing the fantasy of Vikings with Norse mythology. The end goal on this one is to defeat mighty bosses and prove yourself worthy to Odin. What's interesting is that it went on to sell more than 12 million copies worldwide, according to the last report that I found. It's maybe one of the biggest survival games of heaven. Why? Well, at the core, it's a fun game of crafting, base building, and surviving. Honestly, it's where it shines. The combat is really good in this one. You have a lot of options with your weapons and your shields. It'll also take different types of damage and you'll want to do. It depends on the enemies you fight. The bosses in this game aren't easy, but taking them down is always a satisfying experience. The open world is really big and randomly generated, and it comes in different biomes: a meadow, a swamp, mountains, the plains. The frequency in these games is highly questionable, to say the very least, but what isn't? Valheim is absolutely a game, yet definite. The character movement has weight to it. It's one of the better balanced games in the genre. It's highly co-op friendly. That's what they were going for. It's got the classic RPG mechanics, which means you increase your stats by doing them. It's got PvP, but you don't have to worry about getting shot on sight. So ultimately, if you're looking for a little bit more of a social experience, Valheim might be the place to look. It's just a great game in general though, and you should probably just play it. Now down at number 2, Subnautica is another one of the more obvious games that goes on a list like this, especially in the past couple of years, as we've seen a lot more games mimic what Subnautica does, which is put your character in a crazy underwater world with wide open seas and a lot of stuff to see, secrets and mean-ass monsters if you're not careful. Subnautica is a focus. It's special at this point. I'd say it might be a classic. It's just one of those games, you can't like it less. It's great. It's about exploring a complete unknown. So instead of starting out in a frozen or burning wasteland, Subnautica strands you in an escape pod in a very alien ocean world. That's all you can say about it, really. You can start building your subaquatic base and empire. It's not nearly as easy as you might think though, because you're underwater and you have to be underwater to do all the things that you want. That means you have to manage your oxygen supply with tanks and upgrades, making sure you don't run out while exploring. And the further down you go, the more careful you have to be, because oxygen doesn't last long. It's a pressurized oxygen tank, so you're going to have to be underwater because that's where the monster is. Yeah, the one thing you might not know going into Subnautica is there are monsters. The deeper you go, the scarier they get. Trust me, there are things in the ocean and they are scary as hell. It's what perhaps you were afraid would happen in some sort of situation where you were going to the beach with your friends as a child, and all the darkness of the sea, the abyssalness of it, felt like it might yield a giant monster. It's a nightmare scenario that this game might present. If you're afraid of the ocean, I would certainly not go for this game first, but it's damn good. If you love survival though, you're not going to let a fear of the ocean, which is actually pretty rational, it's unknown, and literally the ocean we live on, it's full of things we don't know. But this is a game, and we do know the developers know too. It's fair. Subnautica is a very special game, and certainly one we very much needed to talk about.
We're down momentarily. If you have not already evacuated the facility...
Now at number 1, this one's actually pretty recent and seems worth pointing out just from where it's coming from, because Abiotic Factor sounds like an exercise in absurdity, and it is to an extent, but it actually kind of functions as a game. It plays like a mix of Half-Life with SCP stuffed with humorous things. So as a gate employee, you're tasked with explaining the unexplainable, searching and researching multidimensional substances and scenarios and scenery, and it goes beyond Earth's comprehension or explanation. So when a containment breach turns your workplace into a war zone, you're the complex's, let's say, last hope for help as you work with your other scientists to craft and supply your way out of this mess, one dimension at a time. It's such an odd game because so much of it sounds like just completely random ideas boiled into a game, but the game functions. Honestly, a lot of what probably makes it work as well as it does is 1, there's a lot of gameplay variety, like it's somewhat distractible in that regard, but 2, there's a lot of really excellent character creation. The job you pick for your character actually affects the level ups you can do in your skill sets and traits and stuff like that. It's an odd game, you have to deal with lots of survival meters, but like, again, it's got like a different tone. It kind of subverts it a little bit almost with what's essentially like, you have to explain the inexplicable. Things are going nuts and you don't know what to do. You have to be a scientist and do science stuff. I don't know, it's pretty fun. It does go off the rails, obviously, as you can probably expect from just a lot of what I've described already, but it works super well. It supports cooperative play for up to 6 players to work together to escape this place. It's a game that ultimately boils down to just get the hell out of here, but to do that, you need a lot of science to do that science. And who knows what's going to come your way while you're trying to do it. So it can be played up to a 6-player co-op session or a single-player campaign, but it's probably better with more people, more minds to tackle the issues. Just having an extra hand could be the difference between life and death. It gives you the option of either way. So if this type of game sounds fun to you and you got a lot of friends, I would recommend it. If you like the SCP thing, if you like science, if you like absurdism, Abiotic Factor is a good game for you. It's not going to be a game for everyone, certainly, but if this clicks for you, it will really click for you.